Hi, my name is Nicole Rodriguez. I'm a quantum living advocate for Solex, and I am going to be going through a interpretation of one of the vital scans after a 4 scanning series of one client. So I'm excited for you guys all to be here and join me as I explain a little bit of how to read the vital scan and how to even track your clients if you're wanting to measure the changes in from scanning from your first scan and optimization through 4 scans. So let me start sharing my screen and it'll make more sense when you guys see what I have up here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. For privacy reasons, I did block the client's name, but what I did is I wanted to measure and be able to show the changes of how using the AO scan consistently across 4 scans, what the changes would be and how we could track the results. So this is very easy to do. And I'm just going to share how I did it. I had my client be ready at 10 a.m. every Friday. That's when we booked our appointment time. And one thing I made sure to let him know was to be hydrated and to do the same exact thing on that Friday. So if he didn't eat breakfast, don't eat breakfast. And then we're going to do his scan and his optimization. And then I just sent his emails directly to me and to him. And I started tracking the results. So what I did is I put all the results in a spreadsheet. So as you can see here, we have columns A, B, and C. D is missing, and a couple of the other rows are missing just because I have them hidden. Because what I want to show here is the results from before optimization, before he had ever been scanned, ever, what his numbers would be. And then that is this scan in the previous column. And then after we did 4 scans and optimizations, I did the final numbers here. So this is after the last optimization. And this allowed me to really get a clear view of what things stayed in and stayed out. When I did do my assessment, I looked across the board of all the columns just to see, okay, say butter was out like, 4 times in the scans. That would give me the ability to see across multiple scans. But really for the client's purpose, I wanted to show the changes from the first time he was ever scanned and then after having 4 scans and optimization done, the changes. And the changes are incredible, the improvements. So I'm going to start with going through a little bit of the allergy sensitivities. As you can see, the client had a lot of dairy flagged in his first scan before optimization. And then over a series of scans, his numbers continued to be in the red and orange, so 1 and 9 or 2 and 8. And then through optimization, his numbers actually got much better, but I did note that dairy is very much a histamine food for him. And based on the rest of his scan, I would recommend him avoiding it for about 30 days to see how he would feel. So I'm going to go through the rest of the food sensitivities, but I'm sure that most of you have seen Becky Kutz's, some of her training that Solex does on Wednesday nights. And she did go through the food sensitivities in detail. So I have the food sensitivity, pretty much the breakdown of like nightshades, histamines, if a food is an oxalate and who should avoid oxalates, gallbladder friendly foods, and then anything that would be considered maybe coming up as an extra sensitivity that you're not sure why it's in your scan. For example, like the seafood category, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, like oysters, prawns, like I don't even eat that stuff. But it's just showing you that shellfish is an issue for you. So this is a great resource to have at your fingertips when you're going through the food sensitivities. So I do have that here. And I'll show you just a snip of that. This is all from Becky's. And if anybody wants a copy of this, feel free to reach out to me and I can give you a copy of this. This just goes through the different types of foods and how they can affect our body, what things might not be in the best interest for everyone. So as we go through this, here again, gluten was flagged in the beginning, and across the multiple scans, it came up 1 in 9 many times. So I did recommend for him to not have gluten for 30 days, as well as not having the dairy. And you'll see as I get through some of the other scans, like why this is a recommendation, like as I continue down. But just looking at this, you can see a lot of like the 1s and 9s, the red did clear up after multiple scans. The client could not believe how much better he was feeling. And he did not make any other changes. He didn't incorporate anything else. So that's pretty incredible. Aloe vera flagged a 9 and a 1 back and forth through multiple scans, and it was really red and orange over the whole time. So from Becky's class, she taught us that aloe vera is often used to like help with gut inflammation. It's similar to like glutamine or slippery elm, I think is what it's called. Licorice root is another one, can help with the stomach inflammation and helps with gut health. So I just flagged that there, and then I wanted to see what else was going to come up in his scans. All right, so we're going to go down here. You could see a lot of the oxalate foods were showing up for him. He did optimize really well over the 4 scans, and oxalates, what we know about that, those oxalate like heavy foods, they're often associated with or connected to people who have issues with kidney stones or sensitive kidneys. So usually nephrologists recommend eating like a low oxalate diet to avoid kidney stones. It's also recommended for people who have hyperparathyroid to limit their oxalates. So you're going to see on the paperwork that I send you guys, whoever wants it, the breakdown of the foods, and this will help you to further understand the food sensitivity parts. But I do want to continue going because there's so much to go through here. So the blood lipids, he actually was doing pretty well this first scan, and then his numbers bumped in and out, and that's normal. It's completely normal for that to happen. We are constantly in different environments, eating different foods, exposed to different things. So it's completely normal for our frequencies to things to change. So it would be abnormal if across the board, everything is consistently not changing. So we want to look at more of like a screenshot of time over multiple scans to see the trends, to see what things we're seeing consistently across the scans, if that makes sense. So the blood lipids here, these were out. And I know that these are proteins connected to HDL. And if you're not sure what it is, you can always Google the term if you're learning and you're just trying to break this stuff down for yourself. But here, you know, we do know that some of his sensitivities to like the cholesterol stuff is coming up, and his what maybe are some foods that he should eliminate, we can identify just from this. One thing that I flagged here was the total iron binding capacity. So iron came up here, but you'll see as I go through the scans, it comes up multiple times. So we're going to look a little bit deeper into why this would be flagged. And you want to look at the sections more like not line by line, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. It's more about over time, like, and the complete section. So if you look at like the blood 2 section, this contains the CBC, some of the CBC items, and then the fatty acids. You want to look at like overall, this was a huge improvement. There were so many things that were out, red and red, and definitely improved. But over the 4 scans, his omega-3s, you could see, were being flagged multiple times. And then, you know, they did improve, but it's something that you would want to suggest, like, hey, you might want to consider taking like a nice fish oil, a good omega-3. And then they can also eat more of the omega-3 foods. MCH over here, I just happen to know that this is connected to more about the oxygen in the blood and everything. So methyl B is a big red flag for someone who needs more methyl B vitamins, or they're not methylizing well. So MTHFR is one of the genes. There are multiple strains of it that you need MTHFR, or you need methyl B, sorry, with MTHFR in order to help you methylize and detox. So this was just something I flagged. I figured I'd look a little bit further down the scans to see if anything came up for MTHFR or maybe homocysteine levels, because that can be affected with MTHFR as well. So here are his chakras. They really looked much better after the multiple scans. The same thing with his meridians. They all pretty much improved. I have the gallbladder meridian flagged because it came up like 3 times in the multiple scans. So even though it optimized to a 5 the last time, we're still raising a flag here that there might be some issues with gallbladder. Then the spleen meridian came up low multiple times. And if you read about the spleen meridian, you might want to check like the lymphatic system. Maybe there's something sluggish in there. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Now, this is like this section here, the gastro function. He definitely has gastro issues just by seeing this part of the scan. So we know that before he had a couple things flagged for food sensitivities that would relate to gastro problems maybe being an issue. But this helps us to kind of dig in a little bit deeper, like what could be going on. We can look at like things like the pepsin secretion, see if the colon is doing its function, and then hydrochloric acid. Becky talks a lot about this, and so does Deb in a lot of our trainings. So hydrochloric acid across the bar for him kept coming up. Here it was 6 and a 6, but in the other columns, it did flag multiple times. So I know that he's got issues in the digestive system. And then that made me remember, like, oh, wait a minute. Above, there was something that was flagged for him that was related to his absorption of food and everything. So if you go up a little bit again, like, let me just pull this back up just to show you. This is about the glutamine and then the aloe vera. So this connected for me, that dot right there. And it starts off slow. You're going to have times where you're looking through the scan and maybe not sure about what you're seeing. But if you really just start looking at like the little details and then the overview, the big picture, things will start coming together nicely, and you probably know more than you think you know. So it's just putting all the training that Solix has and putting that into effect, and really just not being afraid to Google some things if you need to. Okay, so back to this. This was, I mentioned the homocysteine. So this consistent was out across, and homocysteine is directly affected. Usually it's high homocysteine levels with MTHFR. So this again, you know, made me think, let me check MTHFR. Let me ask him how his blood pressure's been. He might need a methyl B vitamin to help him. So I would look at his vitamin section in a little bit. This one, if I see something get thrown off, I may ask, like, did anything happen in this last scan, or, you know, that would have maybe thrown the sedimentation rate off. And ironically, he shared with me that, oh yes, the night prior, he was at a bar with friends and did have some alcohol. So that could have affected this part of the scan. So, I mean, the AO is so good, it picks up everything. So, all right, let's keep going down. So these are more like insulin resistance things, some of the pancreas level.
Animals lie. No.
Everybody. Okay, so again, there were a couple things flagged here, and this leads me to believe there's a connection with his digestive system needing some help. So we're going to scroll down. The pancreas didn't appear to be really out consistently, but I think over time, you're going to see when we look at the gallbladder and the liver, if he doesn't look at more of what's going on with his gallbladder and his liver, then the pancreas might become an issue, because it just will trickle down to the next organ, the next organ, the next organ. So here we go in the amino acids. This is a really important section. Glutamine came up, and this is again connected to the aloe vera, the gut issues. So we definitely want to look at this first, because this is like the third time that we saw this come up. Okay, so methionine, this is connected to homocysteine. So again, makes me think MTHFR, but I didn't even look at that part yet. And then digestive enzymes, he was off. Like, look at this digestive enzyme chart. I mean, the improvement is incredible, but yes, he had so many things flagged as 1s and 9s, and just having the 4 scans alone, not doing anything else, he felt incredibly better. So it just goes to show you that, like, you have this great device in your hands. We have to be using it. We have to be scanning and optimizing, you know, our kids, our family, clients, friends. It's so important. When you actually look at the data, you can see it clearly, the improvements. So the enzymes improved overall 4 scans. And then I mentioned taking a daily hydrochloric acid HCl supplement because of everything coming up here. Digestive and hydrochloric acid came up again here. Across the board, it was flagging in and out. So that was another marker for me to look at digestive. So sulfur came up here. That can sometimes be connected to MTHFR as well, and cysteine levels. Potassium is a kidney marker. So I thought about checking this, because we know from Becky's training that oxalates are related to kidney and can negatively affect kidney or cause like kidney stones if you're eating highly oxalated foods. So I just wanted to note that there. And then molybdenum was on and off 1 and 9, so he may potentially need that, but it's not something that I would say, oh, he's got to do that immediately. I think, you know, over more scans, we could see what happens. Iron came up again, and this was flagged in other areas, so I wanted to ask him about that. But overall, his digestive enzymes and macrominerals greatly improved. And then we get down to the MTHFR. So the first gene here, the C677 T, this one, you can't see it on these 2 that I'm showing, but it was consistently out. So, and this one is the gene strand that's directly correlated to nerves and brain, and it raises homocysteine levels. So that definitely coincides with everything else that we saw in his scan. So again, to take methyl B vitamins. The other vitamins greatly improved over scans, which is really impressive. I was so happy to see this. Okay, so again, this B12 vitamin, he needs the B12 methyl B to help with like his nerves and the myelin. His vitamin D was in and out 1 and 9 often. It did get a little bit better, but I recommended he supplement with a vitamin D3 and a K2 because the 2 is here. Oftentimes that's in one vitamin. So that's what I recommended. And a whole food vitamin is really best. You don't want to buy like synthetic vitamins from CVS. They're not going to do much for you. Even like most of the gummies that are out there, I wouldn't recommend them either. Okay, so then we come down to physical functionality. In the bone growth index area, cartilage and this phosphatase was showing out consistently. And that I thought he would benefit from having like a bone broth or collagen daily to help with the healing of his bones. And the collagen and the bone broth will also help with his digestive system. So it's a win-win, and that's easy to incorporate. Okay, so down here, the nerve health was amazing. This improvement from these 9s, these 1s, some of these 2s and 8s, this shifted out. We don't even have one red in here. And this greatly, greatly improved. So this was very impressive to see. And the fact that he's telling me that he feels so much better made me feel really confident in the AO and everything that we're doing with these scans and optimization and how important it is to do this daily or weekly, I would say. Okay, so physical functionality, when we get down to here, this is cardiovascular area. A lot of these did improve. The fatty acids would help, especially like the cholesterol crystal. That would help that to improve. Cartilage again came up, so we want to flag the bone broth. But his collagen in all of these other areas here definitely improved. So that was very cool to note. In his inner voice scans, because I did do inner voice for him as well, melatonin was coming up a lot. And melatonin is directly connected to sleeping. And then I thought it was interesting that the pineal came up in a lot of the scans. It was orange or red and consistently out. So melatonin is where the is created in the pineal gland. So I thought that was interesting. So he might need to decalcify the pineal gland. Maybe over time you can get a lot of metals on that third eye. So TRS spray would be helpful, but I didn't even note it here. I figure I'll look at his metals first and see if that seems to be an issue for him. Okay. Here, the eye health, visual fatigue, this was out the entire time. So I highly recommended the color therapy glasses for him to help with visual fatigue and scanning and optimizing. And when he does get his own scanner, to be able to imprint on the eye would be great. He could imprint frequencies for eye health directly on his eye. All of his hormones improved. I think there's only one that stayed out, and that was uric acid, which relates to needing B12 and can be connected. These are all kidney markers right here. So this was a red flag for me that the oxalate foods that were flagging ahead when we were looking at the food sensitivities are definitely related to kidneys here. So when we had our follow-up, I brought this up and I said, you know, I really think you need to eliminate, like, I don't know if you're eating a lot of spinach or kale, but like you might want to take a little break from that. Do you get that a lot in your diet? And he said, actually, I have a kale and spinach smoothie every single morning. So you think you're doing something good for you, but it's everything in moderation. And the AO caught that this was actually harming his kidney health a little bit. So he's taking a break from that and switching it out to do another healthy option for a smoothie in the morning, but eliminating the oxalate rich foods. Okay, so liver and gallbladder, they greatly improved overall. The gallbladder, like some of these detox markers here for liver and gallbladder, I could tell were an issue. The glutathione here for the detox phase 2 is related to his gut health. And then also this methylation phase was in and out, and that is related to the MTHFR. So let me see what else I want to talk about, because there's a lot more I want to get through. Okay, so skin index, thyroid. So thyroid was flagging a little bit here, but it was green and blue in multiple parts of the other scans. So over time, if he doesn't focus a little bit more on the liver and the gallbladder and even the kidneys, the thyroid's going to become more of an issue. So we want to have him focus on that. Another thing that was amazing is all of these allergies and pollens all improved tremendously. And I just double checked like the Lyme frequencies, and he didn't have any frequencies here showing up that Lyme would be an issue or seem like an issue for him across the 4 scans. So that's something you always want to check too, because Lyme can have like a lot of co-infections with it. But overall, he said that his allergies improved tremendously, that the allergy and pollen section, he noticed that he wasn't taking his allergy medication as often and blowing his nose less allergy symptoms. Okay. The molds and fungus greatly improved, but he did have some things still coming up for mold. So you want to be careful where you source your materials from, like your even coffee. Like coffee is known to be very moldy, so you want to make sure you're getting a really good good coffee. This particular client was using CBD oils, and ironically, the herbicide toxicity and pesticide toxicity was showing up. So there you go. I mean, you have to be careful where you're sourcing those things from as well. Then following up with the metals, since that was flagged earlier, the metals definitely showed that he could benefit from something that would decalcify the pineal. There's TRS spray. There's another company, Clean Slate, that that you can use, and it's a spray that you just take by mouth that will help. Mercury came up. So I asked him if he had any mercury fillings, and he said, well, actually, no, I don't anymore. I had them taken out a week before I had my first scan. So for sure, by removing the mercury fillings, something still got trapped in the body from that mercury. So I did recommend that maybe he wants to, the TRS spray would help for sure, and spray like specifically the teeth that he had those fillings in, but also incorporating some cilantro is a natural way to help to clear metal toxicity out. Okay, so parasites, overall, the parasites improved greatly. You can see all the 1s and 9s, and then after 4 scans, how he looked. So, and then viruses, he had such a clean viral panel. Just, you know, normally we all know that these energies are not just your own, they could be absorbed, they can be inherited, and usually you have a lot of things come up from just cellular memory and it's imprinted in your DNA. But for him, he didn't have a lot of viruses. So this is how I would go through the report with him. And then what I did is I created, because I didn't want him to worry about writing all these notes out while we're going through his scans. So I just had a little bit of an overview of what we went over. So this is similar to how I would talk about his scan with him, is how I'm sharing it with you guys. But I just like went through and listed some things out, highlighted like removing dairy, gluten, the aloe vera supplement, should he want to do something like that. And certain foods flagged me to check his gallbladder. I did provide him the list of foods at the end that are good for gallbladder, and things you might want to avoid for gallbladder. Now we know the spinach and kale smoothie. He's going to be eliminating that for a little bit, giving his kidneys a break. And then this is just everything that I shared with you guys. I did pull some information from the AO about like the different meridians that came up a couple times. And it's really cool to see how what came up in the meridians, like when you look at the physical links and emotional links, the physical, a lot of things directly correlated with the bigger picture items that we pulled out from reviewing his scan. So it's just, it's really cool when you do some of these, and they're not that hard to do. So I recommend you guys try to do your own scans and see how it goes. You can just copy and paste the two columns. What you would do is when you email the scan to yourself, open up the Excel file and then copy and paste the two files into your first scan. And then you'll just track it that way. And then you can hide the columns that you don't want to see in between so that you have exactly like what I shared with you. And then the gastro thing, nutritional stuff that I pulled out, the vitamins that I recommended for him. And this particular client asked me for links to specific vitamins that I thought were good, or brands that I knew that would be like a good vitamin for him. So I did do that. I sent that to him in an email. And then this is like pretty much rounding up the end. So the options to continue, you can decide if like maybe in a month you'd want to do like incorporate everything that you've got going on here. And then in a month, if you want to book another package of 4 scans and then do an analysis at the end, I could absolutely do that. And even continue off the same spreadsheet if he wants to see the tracking over 8 weeks of having this done. Or if he would like to purchase his own scanner and he can scan and optimize daily and get the benefits. And then this is again just from Becky's training. I shared this with him so that he would know what foods to avoid based on all the recommendations above. So that's pretty much it. And I always add in the note at the end about the AO scan not being a diagnostic tool. It's more educational, but it's something that we can definitely help to understand our body systems better. And that's pretty much it. So questions, I'm going to check the chat. If anyone has anything, feel free to unmute, and I'd be happy to address it. So you mentioned certain vitamins, like the ones in pharmacies are not best. So what brands are good? So I personally like a brand called Jarrow. I prefer. There's another one and it's Jarrow. Another one that has like whole food vitamins. Let me see, I can, yeah, Now is a great brand. Denise is right. I've heard of them too. I have a couple from them, but you would really just want to make sure there's not a synthetic component to it, that you're getting more of like a whole food vitamin. Symbiotica, I think, has some pretty good supplements. And And Solex. I mean, we have great supplements. So you can always look at what is in the Solex supplements to see maybe you need gold, maybe you need prime. And Solex also has the MTHFR methylated versions. If you see that this is coming up for you, you definitely want to go down that road and make sure that you're not taking something that wouldn't be in your best interest, that you're taking what you need for your body. Does anyone have any other questions that I can answer? Okay, so I'm glad I was able to do this for you guys. And one other thing I just want to say, we have like 2 minutes left, is that don't feel intimidated by doing this on your own. Like, we all start from where we're at, and we're all going to improve over time. And we can all kind of help each other. There's so much learning that's offered here in teams, kind of learning. High Vibes Tribe, we provide so much. And then Solex for sure has a ton of great things that you can do. Phase 1, I learned a ton in. Phase 2 was amazing as well. So if this is something you want to do, then there are ways that you can learn all of this information. And just by mapping it out and kind of studying the data and putting the dots together yourself, you're going to improve. You're going to get better and better at what you're capable of doing. So don't feel intimidated, and I encourage you all to try this. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to help with whatever you need. Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Otherwise, we're going to end. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm going to stop the video, and I hope all of you guys have a great night.